Boom, 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 ba-da, boom. Where is my pen? Where is my pen? Oh my god, you made it. Hi. Hi, friend. Well, what if we... I was really enjoying drawing. Drawing with a mouse. There you go, what a happy chappy. What a happy chappy. Hello, Art of Sane or Sane. Yeah, we can draw with a mouse. Look, we can get really interesting shapes. Oh, bit strange. But oh well. Shall we I don't know. I wanna actually make a concept, whether that's like a character or a creature or something. How do I study complex stuff? Depends what kind of complex thing. This is a bitchin I studied not long ago. First I did this, so I got a framework of the perspective, because all my other objects are going to be placed on top of that. It's just like cubes, but making sure that that's right is important. And then I went through, and I think a lot of the time, especially with something like concept art, people try and find ways to make their lives easier. Like, I could have gotten a scatter brush or something and, you know, done this and gotten the impression of noise and information. And you can see if you zoom out, it works. But I really wanted to slow down, and I literally took it one item at a time. I was like, okay, this is a pan. So it has a top ellipse, and then it has a shadow at the rim, and then it has this other ellipse. It's got this soft occlusion shadow down below where it's on top of a hob. It's got a specular reflection on the front of it, and it's got some Fresnel on the side where it's began to actually kind of reflect the wall behind it. And it looks like fairly simple, But I was taking it one object at a time and trying to think about all of those things. Thank you, Megan. Same thing with this, so differentiating between the two materials, thinking about this gradient. What exactly is producing this gradient? What is it reflecting? This is something that's really interesting here, where this shadow goes darker at the bottom, where it's reflecting the... it's because the angle of reflection is the same as the angle of refraction or whatever. Again, so I just went through step by step, really slow, and tried to figure it all out. You know, what's happening here? Well, this is where the cupboard's going in, but this is where there's a darker shadow. There is no cupboard. This plate I really like. I like this plate. So that's how I would study complex stuff. Is complex stuff requires a complex answer, right? It can be very tempting to find something very complex and try and simplify it. And that's like a challenge in and of itself, which is fun and it's useful and you can learn a lot from it. But recently I've been trying to slow myself down and, like, you know, how am I gonna paint this crack in the wall, or this air fryer, which I'm quite happy with. This ellipse of this cup with this shadow going through, and then the shadow of the ellipse next to it being reflected back on it. So, yeah, really useful. I'd quite like to do another one. Maybe I should study more kitchens. And it was about getting hard edges where I wanted hard edges and soft edges where I wanted soft edges. But I really, really took my time with it. I think it took me like 3 or 4 hours, whereas usually I study something in like half an hour. So, you know, a much, much bigger time investment, which was quite good. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, when you get close to a sergeant painting and it's just dabs, but those dabs are very, very precise and very, very specific. Like, even the temperature change on this wall as it gets close to the light. Looking at it really in depth. And I did in areas like here with these oranges, I was trying to see if I could just simplify it in a way that would be less crazy. And, you know, you get the shadows on the floor and everything. But I learned a lot. It's really weird because I learned a lot and I enjoyed myself when I was doing it, but I haven't done one since. So yeah, it's all about intentionality. So let's grab an image and let's study it and think about it on stream. And I'll try. Sometimes I go a bit quiet when I'm painting because it's, you know, it's hard not to. But I'll try and study it and talk about it as I go. What would be a good thing to study? Something that I maybe don't understand. Like a shipwreck. Ooh, I'm looking at shipwrecks and they're pretty fun. Yeah, no, I'm more than happy to answer questions. That's what I'm here for. Yeah, try not to zoom in too much. I usually stay zoomed out for the whole painting, but with that kitchen I had to zoom in. I should use these more. Like, I forgot I made these. These transitions for when I'm like messing about looking at reference and stuff. I also have a starting soon one. Back to Photoshop. I should use them. Let me grab an image. If there's one thing I'm bad at, it's picking reference. It slows me down and makes me do no work whatsoever. Because it's not that I don't want to paint any of the reference. It's that it's really overwhelming how much reference there is, with access to like Pinterest and Google and stuff. And it's hard to justify choosing one thing over another thing. How about we study this? Okay. And we can break this down. We can really break this down into manageable steps. So the first thing I'm going to do, which I don't really usually do, is I'm going to do a drawing. Because if you really want to study something, figuring it out in line first might be a good idea. So first of all, use the correct layer. Don't be stupid. I can see that it's kind of fairly round, so if we take a round shape to begin with, but then it kind of chops off the corners, doesn't it? So something more like that. That's the shape we're getting, right? And again, by separating that down into something a bit more manageable, I can now take any circle wherever I am, and I can kind of flatten off the edges like that and get something of a similar shape or whatever. It can help to do this as well, where you actually kind of figure it out smaller first. I'm actually figuring it out flipped, but so that when I come back up here, I might have a slightly better idea of what I'm doing. And I'm just going to spend a decent amount of time doing a drawing. This is a cylinder on this side, which I assume is this thing over here. So that cylinder repeats itself on both sides of the helmet. And then you have this curve that comes round. Like that. That's going up and back round, and that is more or less going in like a perfect ellipse. Okay, this is going to come back, and then we're going to follow that back up. Now we can find the midpoint of the face, which is going to be like there. And then let's explore the fact that there's this side's actually darker. Okay. So if that's the center of the face, then we kind of have to build the face around that. That's going to be an eyebrow, an eye. I don't want to dwell on the head too much. I mainly want to look at the helmet, but that's going to be our face. Let's just leave it as something like that. And because that's where the nose is, we know for a fact that this breathing thing's coming out of it. It's going to come up, back around, some other stuff. What am I thinking while studying? I'm thinking what I'm saying. So everything I'm saying at the moment, and I do find as a student that it helps to read or say out loud what you're thinking. So it might seem a bit weird and a bit like you're, I don't know, chronically online, but sitting there and going, oh, and then I then I think about this, and then I do this. Is I'm just working through every problem on its own, right? Because if you look at the big picture, it would be very easy to get kind of overwhelmed with it and think, oh my god, there's so much information and detail, how am I going to do it all? But if you just select one part at a time, it's fairly simple to work your way through it. So now I'm doing the front of the mask. It's got this bit that comes down that's kind of flat on. It's got another ellipse on the side. Bit that goes up. I'm just talking myself through it as I go. Okay, so this is where the rest of the mask is going to come back in. And then something like that. There's going to be a bit of a side bit. That's going to come out the back. Is everyone in the Morokai Discord VC right now? Oh, that's chaotic. I don't know if I could join a VC with Pineapple in on stream. He could say anything. That could be the end of my career. That's this piece at the back. Actually comes down further. And then there's a bit of like strap. And if we look at that strap separately, it's these two parallel lines. That like come to a point like that. And understanding that form, even though it's something really simple and really tiny, you could do a study of that on its own, right? So, let's understand that in isolation. That is hooking onto part of this tube that looks a bit like a dummy. And then that has another connecting bit for it to go onto another part of the tube. Let's move this little head over here. And then we can simplify that tube and say that it does something like that. But it remains a consistent width throughout, more or less. So we'll get something like that. And then obviously along this tube you're going to get more ellipses. Then the ellipses actually change direction and start coming towards us. Then there's a strap that actually hooks onto like the clothes there. I think Photoshop just crashed. Yes, Photoshop crashed. Let's hope that it retained what I was doing. If it didn't, we might approach the study in a different way. Okay, it didn't save any of what I was doing. Okay. Okay, fine. We learned what we were learning. So let's approach this in a different way. I'm going to approach it more in a kind of painty way. I'm going to make the canvas a little bit bigger. I'm going to make the background this dark grey colour. I'm going to make it slightly saturated. And then I'm going to change the hue to something a bit more reasonable. Something like that. Okay. Now when I'm thinking in terms of shape instead of line, again, I can remember from when I was doing it with line that it's going to start with a circle. Right, which is fairly obvious. So let me put in my circle. Okay. Now on that circle, I'm gonna get other bits and pieces going on, but I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. So first of all, I'm seeing that it's reflecting more brown than you might initially think. Because it's spherical, it's always going to have some kind of lighting applied to it. So let's just get some basic lighting going on. Something like that. Okay. Then on my circle, I can make a clipping mask. Okay, so a layer on top that's only gonna touch the rest of the circle. And I can start playing around with other selections. So up here, I think there's this really, really bright highlight. So I'm gonna get that in like that. Same thing here. Okay, so there's a little highlight. I might smudge it a bit because I think the whole thing's fairly soft. And I can erase back into it, get it the shape I want. Then there's another highlight down here. So we'll get that in. Okay. Then maybe we go back to the original circle and we try and figure out exactly what the shape is. So if you remember, it's a circle, but these back edges are kind of a bit more boxy, like that. Which is kind of tough. Something like that. Okay. It's also got a portion in the center, which isn't going to show at all. So let's chop that out. Something like that. Underneath this grey we can get something equivalent to that skin tone. Maybe a little bit less bright. Something like that. Okay. And then again on this clipping mask we can decide that first of all this area that I've just defined, let's grab that and move it slightly down there. Colour back in these bits. I think that's a bit better. So the side of this, because it's glass, is going to be like reflecting the background. But then maybe on a layer on top we get like just pitch black. And we suggest some of these shadow shapes. Right, and you can already kind of begin to see it. To see something happen. Like, and the shapes are a little bit off, which is why an accurate drawing would have been helpful. But we can't have an accurate drawing because Photoshop crashed. So. Okay, let's go back on this, and again, let's try and refine that shape a little bit more. So actually the helmet's going to come up and then back down. And then if we just fill this in over here, we can begin to define some kind of a reasonable shape for the I don't know what it is, a ventilator, a breathy mask thing. I guess it's just an oxygen mask. Okay. So again, we're working really methodically. I might even grab some what are they called? Selections, and use them to tell me what's going to go where. But the most important thing is I'm thinking about all of this. I'm not just going mad. Oh, hello, Hunter. Wait, which Hunter? Hunter McCatherwood or Hunter the meme lord? But yeah, the whole point is that we're thinking. I'm using my brain. It might not seem like it, but I promise you, I'm using my brain to the best of my ability. I might get this. We need to signify that this mask actually carries on. Catherwood, okay. So the mask's actually gonna have a cast shadow? Even though it's glass still has a cast shadow. It's gonna have information in there. A lot of this is gonna go really brown for whatever reason. I guess it's because it's reflecting a lot of the warmer tones from the skin. We can afford to go darker with the skin as well, I think. Especially where the helmet is actually casting a shadow onto the rest of the face. And the face turns around that form there. I think we're gonna leave most of the head blank. But what I will do is I just want to get in, and maybe that's too big a selection. I just want to get in the ball of the eye socket. Something like that. It can be fairly subtle. Maybe some eyebrows actually. Okay. Let's keep that going further up. I think this circle I made earlier is too big. I think it should be much smaller. Like that big. And I also think that it's going to have another circle cut out of the middle. And then it's going to be further down, like there. Then we can put some of this white back in, although as it gets down here, below that circle, it's going to have a cast shadow. I think this grey should probably be closer to the edge of this circle anyway. Yeah, and that's gonna inform that little lip that goes into the rest of the mask there, which has an edge because it's a solid thing. And that's gonna tell us where this pattern goes as well. On this highlight, there's this like blue, electric blue color going on. So I'll put that down. Then there's like a neon yellow. Then we're actually getting like a decent amount of light in here. Again, especially as we come further up the mask. Maybe we make it a little bit smaller like that. Okay, so I think it's beginning to look more like glass. I think this shadow could get darker. I think you're seeing shadows play about the face. That side of the face is definitely going to be in shadow. Over here we've got some like hair, red hair. That should be darker and more saturated. Something like that. Okay. Let's get some more hard edges in. So over here we're going to have this shape, which actually seems to go a little bit green. Not that green. If we just grab this back end, that goes really green, but it's a more kind of bluey green. Then you get this shape coming over here. This is just jet black. It's jet black as it's casting shapes onto that. The underside of this is also jet black. Okay, so you can see how the live stream's been on for half an hour. I would usually have a finished painting by now, but I'm taking my time and I'm slowing down and I'm observing things that are going on, and that's helping me not only paint a nice picture, because I think I could have painted this helmet in less time, but it's helping me understand what's going on, why it's going on, and that why it's going on is going to help me if I have to paint it from my imagination or something, or if I have to design a helmet of my own. Okay, so engaging your brain, which is something alien to us as artists, is actually going to be really, really, really important. We don't want to be making these decisions mindlessly. I'm seeing that the texture of the kind of carbon fiber is most strongly pronounced when it's coming out of that highlight. So I'm going to do it strongly at the highlight, and then I'm going to grab the same value and I'm going to lower it just a bit, and then I'm going to paint on these stripes, but they're not going to be anywhere near as obvious. Like that. And then I can use that same value up here to imply the same material. I'm going to move, there was this highlight up here. I think it has to move further that way. Oh, and then again that highlight can come out of it, right? Yeah, you're welcome, you're welcome. I think this shape here curves around the face a little bit more as it goes up into something like a nose. I think we get a highlight there and on the edge of the mask. Let's just put in a rough face. I think some of these shadows are getting too muddy. I think if we're going to have dark shadows, they better be saturated. I'm seeing that the shadow of the helmet does actually curve around the forehead over here. It seems counterintuitive, but oh well. Okay. We have a cable that comes up here and then down around and back in. We have this cable that comes out the back of the helmet and then around the back. So that's got its own light on. Okay, let's take a quick little break. Just to look at what we've done and maybe review some of it. So I think this bit under the neck should be a bit wider. And then I think this shadow here should be softer. Much softer, like that. Then I think there's a highlight on this white bit here. And I think the same thing is happening down here, where the bottom half of that is highlighted. Need a little bit of white in this eye. Let's just get a really red and kind of glaze over the face. Maybe not that much. Okay. Right, now that we've got that, the rest should arguably be a little bit quicker. I think on a separate layer, maybe under the rest of the helmet, we just block in that. Maybe we block in a slightly lighter color for the don't know what they're called. The straps. Some of their skin color is actually showing up down here. So is a lot of this hair color. In fact, it's darker and redder. And then that's coming out the back of the helmet as well. Okay, let's take this, and I think this should be more grey. And we can also identify where the turtleneck bit is. Maybe we deliberately make that a bit more blue. I think that looks nice. Okay. Maybe we go back to the top layer so that everything works intertwined. The next thing, I think I have a theory on how I could do that pipe. So I'm going to test it out. First, I'm going to save in case it crashes again. Okay, so my theory is I could, and I'm saying it's a theory, but I've done it before, so I pretty much know it's going to work. So I'm going to take a sphere that's like this. Then I'm going to like give it some really light shading like this. But at the bottom of it, I think I'm going to shade it darker. Okay. Then I can grab my mixer brush and I can just grab that and I can actually like paint with it. But with flow at 100%. And then what I can do with my brush is I can just turn up the spacing a little bit and it'll stagger like that. And that's gonna get me like halfway to this thing. So now that I've got that, I can do something like that. Erase my original sphere. Maybe move this bit down. Go around, clean it up, make it maybe a more graphic shape. And then I can make a layer on top that's clipped. And I can kind of go in and put those rings in. That'd be the quick way to do it. I could put the rings in one at a time and really try and get it all correct. But I don't plan on streaming for quite that long. Okay, so then I get this little cap that's going down. This bit at the top is actually curving into a kind of dummy shape. Maybe the side of that dummy is a bit darker. Underneath this, we're going to get a soft cast shadow, like this. It's going to be down here as well, I think. It gets a lot harder further down. I think as well this is going to do something like that. And under this it's basically pitch black. Right. Let's just use these shadows to indicate the sticky uppy bits on the jacket. Like that. There's a crease in this collar, so we can imply that. This has got a shadow as it turns around. We can do that. Okay, so again, a little bit at a time. And like, it feels to me like we're spending ages on this, but the stream has only been going on for 45 minutes, so we're making good time. Making good time. What you'll find is I will begin to speed up the more bored I get of looking at this one image for a while. You could save it, do something else, and then come back later with fresh eyes, and that might be a good counter to prevent you just getting really bored. But we're effectively done now. This down here is darker and greener, like that. And it will have even darker dots on it. What's the best way to do the dots? The best way to do the dots is to probably turn the spacing up on this. Go really small. And do something like that. Maybe not. Maybe not. What if we just get a textury brush? Like that. And we just imply that there's that texture there. That seems good to me, because we're being very lazy. Then we're going to have these creases that come in. So I'm just putting down a mark and then I'm smudging one side to get this crease effect. Right? We're missing that all important. All important strap. Like that. Oh god, when did the music get so sad? There we go. Okay. Have I turned touch back on my tablet accidentally? Yeah, I did. I think that's probably what crashed Photoshop earlier. Now again, we have like a lot of time. We could feasibly sit here and figure out every curve and giblet and bit, and make sure that it all makes sense and it works. Like there's a curve here that follows ellipse. Then the top of this has a highlight. So does the bottom of it. That goes here, which has another brighter joining section. This flat line is interrupted by these bits. Right, and you can see how feasibly we could sketch on and on and on until the world comes to an end. But there's no need for us to do that, really. There are diminishing returns, right? The longer you paint for, the less you get back. It's interesting that I could just change the colour now. But obviously that yellow would be reflected in the helmet. And because I understand why some of these things are happening, I can make that change. So, you know, this isn't going to be so grey anymore. A lot of that yellow is going to be reflected in all of this. Okay. I might want to sharpen it up a little bit. I like that. Maybe we give this a little bit more volume. I want to make it feel like it's coming up and out. Actually, the way I should do that is I should do it up here, right? I should have this thing actually affect the silhouette of the body. And then I like to think that these sleeves are really big and kind of puffy. Something like that. Even bigger. Yeah, that's what I want. And again, I can get that with a graphic kind of shape. And then I'll make it square, and then I'll save it out. Okay. So there you go. That is to Art of Sane, my good friend, how I would think about a study while I'm painting it. And you can see that like a lot of the decisions I'm making they're just thought out decisions. I'm not sat here just pure artistic intuition, nothing else, making weird arbitrary choices. Everything I'm doing is borne out by thinking. Thinking quite hard, might I add, using a lot of brain power. Maybe this fighter pilot's not cool enough, so she actually has a bright red turtleneck on. You know, and there's absolutely nothing to stop us I don't know, making the helmet weirdly long. And like changing the shape of it. Maybe there'll be like a circly bit there. Something like that. Why not? Okay. Brilliant. We're reaching an hour. I know I've got 6 viewers, but I'm gonna leave it there. I've been in work all day and I want to relax. So I just thought I'd hop on, do a quick painting, so I've at least done a little bit of art today. I did do a painting this morning, but it was really quick and not perfect. Here it is. It's like this weird bison creature. I did it with a mouse, which is why it's kind of a bit blurry and weird, but yeah. One last thing I might do is I like to duplicate, and you can see how much more solid that's made everything. Yeah, and then I'll duplicate again, and again it's made everything more solid. And then I'll duplicate again. And what I want to do is I want to put this on hue, and then I want to just expand it slightly. And you suddenly get all of this really funky chromatic aberration going on. We can keep fairly subtle, like that. There you go. Right. Good. Have a good evening, everyone. I will be back tomorrow morning. Maybe not 6 AM. Probably a bit later. Like 8 or 9. If you want to see me study a specific thing or explain a specific subject or topic, or give me a weird challenge to do or whatever, just drop it in the Discord, in the Study Ref channel, and I'll have a look. But yeah, it's been fun. And because I'm me, I just can't leave things alone. So that face needs to be a bit softer, really. Okay. Yeah.